Hey everyone, welcome to Alchemy with Zero Phase. My name is Eric, and I'm thrilled to have you here. Thank you for joining me as we explore the fascinating world of AI art and creative tools. If you enjoy the content, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more tutorials, tips, and fun experiments. Also, if you're looking to elevate your own creative process, check out ZeroGen, our powerful prompt and image generation platform. You can start using the free version today or take advantage of our 3-day free trial for even more features. Check out the link in the description or on the main channel page. Now, let's dive into today's video. Hey everyone, welcome to the video. My name's Eric, and I'm excited about this video because I've got a new tool I've been working on that I think is going to be very helpful for a lot of people, and I'm hoping to build a community around it. But the first thing I want to do here, I want to give a shout out to Prompt Muse. She took time in her last video to plug my free online prompt generator, ZeroGen Lite, as part of one of her videos where she was outlining and pointing out a lot of free AI tools. And I really appreciate that. You know, for people who generate content on YouTube, it's always great to see another channel plug your, whether it's your tools or your content. And so this is her channel. She does a lot of content around AI and a lot of other media sources. So take some time to go through her channel. She's got a lot of great information on here, and a lot of good tutorials. They're really well put together videos, much better than mine, honestly. Mine are so raw and unedited, and I'm trying to improve that. So definitely subscribe to her channel, like her videos, and you know, give her some love from the community. So what she did is she plugged my ZeroGen Lite online prompt generator. I've made this one free for everybody to use, and it gives you access to all my different prompt generators, whether it's Flux, Stable Diffusion, Midjourney, DALL-E. I do need to add on, there's two more that I've created for creating prompts for audio or music generators, and another one for creating what I call virtual personas for, you know, LLMs. So imagine you're a chef in a restaurant, you know, so you can actually create virtual persona prompts. I'll get those put up as soon as I can. So thank you to Prompt Muse. I really appreciate that. All right, so what I want to get into is a new program that I've been working on. So many of you who keep up on my channel know I do a lot in AI art. We developed the prompt generation tool. We've done a lot of tutorials in Stable Diffusion, a lot of that. And I've started to delve into doing some tutorials based around LLMs, large language models like ChatGPT, Grok, things like that. And I started this project as something I wanted to generate a tool that people could run locally on their computer to utilize the prompt generator that I showed them how to make in the last few videos. I was showing them how to create a seed prompt or a master prompt that would allow them to request prompts for specifically for Flux. And as I started diving into creating this program, I was developing it in Python. I realized this could turn into a lot more, and I did a quick video on it. I think my last video, or you know, kind of introduced you to it. But in this video, I want to go through the whole thing, show you what I've got developed, kind of give you my vision of what I'm hoping to achieve with this in the way of developing a community around it, having people develop their own custom nodes by giving them a template, and kind of how to utilize those nodes. So let's go ahead and show you the program real quick. I'm just going to do a high-level overview of the program itself. I started off calling it ZeroLLM. Somebody pointed out that there was another company that has the company name Zero, and they're working with LLM, so I changed it to XeroFlow. I think it actually works better for what it is. So this is the main interface. What you have over here is a list of your workflows or instruction prompts. I'm going to change this. They really are workflows, and I'll show you why here. Over here you have the RAG and LangChain interface for setting up databases or accessing and searching the databases that you keep, specifying the number of results, and doing a quick search using this interface here. We have other integration for searching the databases while you're working in an interactive chat. So down here you have where you put in you can put in a prompt, you select your workflow and submit, and it sends that prompt to the workflow to start executing it. Once the workflow is done, it puts the output down here in the response field. This field is set to format the output similar to how ChatGPT does. So if I were to select general request, and let's just say, show me some example Python code, and submit that, it will send that out to that workflow, and the response should come back once it's done writing it out. It's not real-time streaming. That may change in the future, where you get to see the streamed output similar to how a lot of these online platforms work. But once it comes out, it does format things similar to ChatGPT, where you get a copy button where you can copy the code. It does highlights, number lists, structured views, and formatting. Works really good that way. You can stretch this window open further if you want to get a better look at it. I can. If you want, we can change the outline on this, or how this is formatted, so we get a better view. But you can copy the whole thing, copy specific code blocks, that kind of thing. So that's the output. Okay, so let's dive in. We're going to dive into the settings here. So if you go to the File menu up here, go to Settings, we have a window that presents you with 4 different tabs for managing your API endpoints, for managing your databases, and for managing the documents that are stored in the databases. The last one is managing the nodes. One of the big things I want to really push with this is a community that's generating their own custom nodes and sharing them. Each of these nodes is an individual Python file. And now that I've got the core modules of this program set, being able to take those Python files, and we'll have a repository where people can upload their nodes, their custom nodes, and share them with the rest of the community for doing pretty much anything you can think of. My brain has been on fire for the last 2 or 3 weeks on what's possible with this, and being able to interact with different LLMs. So that's the settings window, and we'll go more in depth on that later, but this is really just an overview. The other thing is the node editing window. So if we come in here, this is the node editor. As you notice, it's a lot like Comfy UI, where you have basically what they call the spaghetti mess, if you want to call that. Each one of these is a specific node tasked with doing a specific thing. So the first node is a general node. I've retitled it Plan and put a prompt in here and set it to interact with ChatGPT. I've designated it as the start node, and you just save that. And then you connect it to whatever node is going to be next. Let's delete this here, and I'll show you. So you just drag that over, do that. And the next node is still a general node, but with a different prompt for processing the previous output. We have a search node here. The search node has a specific function of looking for a search term in the output results of this prompt. So it'll take the prompt in from the previous node, append it to the end of this one, process it, and then it searches for this term here in it, and then outputs to a specific connection here based on if it's true or false. Anyway, so that's just kind of an overview of the node editor. Okay. My whole purpose for developing this was, yes, I want the community to have something highly flexible. That's really the goal, is to have something where you can have a very intricate and complex workflow for working with different LLMs all at the same time. Like taking this plan, execute, improve one that I was showing you, I could have this one using GPT to do the initial planning phase. I could have this one here set to a local llama-based LLM on my Ollama server to actually generate the content, and then down here I could have Grok doing the review of that content and determining if it passes or not, and then sending it back with some suggestions to improve it. And so I got this process that sits there and cycles through without necessarily my interaction to get the result I want. And we have a range of nodes right now that allow you to do a lot of different things. Some of them I got set up here using a general node. My improve, it uses just a few, it's kind of like the other one, but it's missing the one over here, where I give it some content and it just cycles through working to improve that content until it reaches a minimum rating of whatever, 9.0 on quality and whatever else. I have an interactive chat node. This is a highly customized one that, in fact, let me show you real quick here. Just say hello. And this one takes a second to load because it's connecting with and initializing with the database, the selected database that the node is attached to. So this is a lot like ChatGPT here, where you'll be interacting with it, and it will come back and respond. These drop downs don't quite work yet. I can't dynamically change, so you have to change it in the node properties itself. So, but same thing here. The output is all formatted. So I can just ask it for some example Python code. God, struggling with typing today. And there you go. So you get the structured output. What's nice though is you do have access to the selected database. So I could come in here and say, give me a summary of the characters in this story, and then we do the command, which is /doc, and it basically tells it now we're going to be doing a database search, and I want to search for characters, and so it'll send that out and immediately sends back the response. These vector databases are awesome. So it sends that back, and then what it does, it processes that with my request to summarize the characters in the story. Like the primary and secondary characters. And so it allows you to interact with vector databases using RAG and LangChain. That was a fun one to integrate. I'll be integrating more commands later. I think that's going to be a fun one to work with. So speaking of that story, which is a sample story that I've included in the database folder and included in the databases, is called The Rise of the Nexus Alliance. It's just a story I had the AI write, and this story is like if it was in like normal 5x8 novel format, would be nearly 400 pages long. It's something like 85,000 words long, and I wrote that using another node that I created called my long form content node. So this one's a little more complex. It is a custom node that takes an outline. So I have a node, general node here that I send a request, and what it does with that request is it creates an outline or a plan on whatever it is you're asking. Like I say, write a sci-fi story about Bob and his dog Bozo and their adventures gallivanting through the galaxy. And it takes this and creatively writes and you could say I want it to be 10 chapters long. And so it creates this outline chapter by chapter, outlining what happens in each chapter at a high level. Takes that, sends that over to here, and this one is designed to take that, break that up into multiple requests, cycle through those requests, and write the content for each chapter, utilizing the previous chapter and the outline as context for writing the continuing of the story. And so I decided to really push it, and I said, let's write a 30-chapter sci-fi novel gave it some background, some details I would like to see in the story, and said I want 30 chapters, and each chapter I want broken up into 3 sub chapters or subsections. And it created the outline and started cycling through it. I don't know how long it took. I actually set it to go and left it and came back in the morning. And when I came back, I had this very long document that when I did the word count on it, it was about 85,000 words. And I breezed through it, just kind of high level, just checking it. Characters stayed consistent. The story stayed, as far as I could tell, non-repetitive. The only thing that sometimes it struggled with was at the very end, it missed labeling chapter 30 and the subsections in chapter 30. Not sure why, but everything else stayed consistent. And so I have this really cool story that I've included as an example in the database. So that one generates long form content. You can give it pretty much anything you want. Write a poem, and it'll write you a really long poem. So it's not meant for writing short content. Our plan, execute, and improve, you give it something like write me a poem. And what it does is it writes the poem, or it creates a plan, an outline for the poem. It's not specifically for, I'm just using poem as an example. Sends that outline to the execution node, which is another general node with just custom instructions, writes the poem, sends it to the reviewer reviews it, and if it meets a certain criteria, then it sends it to the output. If not, it sends it back with some suggestions, and it cycles through that until it finishes improving. And it could take, 30 seconds, take a minute or two, but it'll keep cycling until it reaches that improvement level. So that's the one I'm working on. I'd like to have something a little more codified on how it tests for quality level. Sometimes the AI doesn't catch that it got rated at a 9.2 and I only wanted 9.0, and it doesn't include the keyword. So, okay, so moving on, I've included a web search and summary flow here, which includes the web scraping node and the web search node. So all this does here is it combines the functionality of these two nodes. So I've created 2 workflows to demonstrate the individual functionality of these. So the web scraping, what it does is you give it something you want it to search for. And let's say information on the Tunguska incident. And what this does, it comes up with a window that basically says how many levels deep do you want to scrape. And so like 1 would basically be just the initial page. 2 would be the initial page and any links that are on that. It'll dive into those links and pull links from that too. So all this is doing, so this is the web scraper. So it's going to pull content. Oh, I apologize. The web search is one we would use this on. The web scraping, we would actually give it a URL. So let's do this. Let's do the web search first. So what this is going to do, it'll do a web search and it comes back with URLs. Okay. And then what we would do is take these URLs. Let's grab this one right here and we'll throw this in here. And we'll go to the web scraping. We'll submit that. We're only going to do 1 level. It goes out, grabs the content from that, and here we have the content from that page. Then we can take this content and plug it in somewhere else. So I've actually combined this. I have a single node that does both the web search, getting the URLs, and the scraping, and then it summarizes that into a more presentable form. So let's say we do this. Give me information on the Tunguska incident. Submit that. This one, I've got an option set to where I want it to present me with the top 5 or the first 5 URLs that it finds. And I can select as many of these as I want. So let's say we select that one and Wikipedia and that one. It'll go out, scrape it, grab that information, send it to another node where it will go through and summarize and create a well-formatted report or article on that. And there you go. And then you could probably take this and plug this into the long form content generator. If you wanted to create a very long report on this, then you would send it over to that. And we're gonna have ways for us to be able to, like, let's say in a long form content creator, to implement those web search and scraping nodes for finding information. So this is going to turn into an agentic system. That is really my ultimate goal with this. I watched something today on what is it called? Swarm, OpenAI's Swarm agentic library. So I'm going to be looking at that and seeing if I can integrate agents. So, like, let's say for the long output node, it's set to break up each of the sections of the outline. And then what we would do is have it be able to interact with, like, the web scraping node or a web search agent, gathering more information on that particular section so it has more up-to-date content. So we're working towards that. That's going to be a fun one to integrate. So the web scraping or web search gives you the URLs, web scraping pulls the information, and then this one here, if we look at this one here, so here's the search and scrape node, so it's all in one. So we actually have the search and scrape, web scraping, or just web search. But the search and scrape actually has the option to enable URL selection, enable web search, so we can tell it to not actually do the web search, just to provide the if there's a URL provided, it'll just scrape that URL. So this is awesome. I've had so much fun. Like, it's been stressful developing this, but let's go through. I want to show you how to get it and how to set it up. I've tried to make this as easy as possible. So let's go through that. Let's pull up it is provided on GitHub. Let me grab that here for us. Okay, so this is my GitHub page. I've got a couple other projects that I've worked on, but this particular one is called XeroFlow. And for those of you who are familiar with how to use GitHub, you're just going to do a git pull, or basically on your system, you got to make sure you have Git installed, and you're basically going to clone. So git clone. Sorry, you're going to clone the repository into a directory that you want, using the link provided here. This will download the folder structure, which includes, the sample database, all the nodes that I have, some of the images that are there, and the workflows that I have set up currently. And then once you get that installed, there are just a couple of requirements that you need beforehand. That is Python. I need to see if it'll work with, like, the latest version of Python, but due to a lot of the local AI stuff being more compatible with, like, the 3.10 range of Python, I've kind of based this off the 3.10.9 version of Python. And then just make sure pip is installed. So if you have Windows, when you install Python, I think it automatically installs it, or it's one of the options. And then just make sure that when you install Python, that you install it adding it to the system path so that it can find it. Once that's been cloned, then you're going to run there's two different batch files. So if you're on a Windows system, and I'll create a bash script for this too, you'll just run the setup bat first. This checks for the Python and pip requirements first, and then it goes through and installs all the requirements that are indicated in the requirements text file. Once that's done, you just use the run bat to run the program from that point out, because that automatically creates the virtual environment, registers the nodes, and loads the program. For those of you on Linux, it really just comes down to make sure you have Python installed and pip, and then do the pip install requirements.txt. That'll go through and automatically set up the requirements, and then you can just run the main.py file directly, or set up your virtual environment and run it. Like I said, I'll get a bash file set up for that and get that updated here into the GitHub. It's pretty easy. It's all pretty self-automated. I had to take a little while. I uploaded this, thought everything was right, and found out the setup was completely messed up and wasn't actually doing it because I was basing it off my dev system, which already has everything installed. And so I had to go to a system that didn't have it installed and work through the issues and things that were missing in the way of requirements. But I think I've got it all. Please let me know if you run into any problems. Would love to see some feedback on the current nodes, and if you have ideas on new nodes. I've got ideas for integrating with a Whisper setup so that you can record and it'll automatically transcribe what you say and create things like a report, emails, whatever, all automatically. So let's see. So let's dive into managing the settings on it. Let's open the program here. Let's go up to File and then go to Manage Settings here, and we'll start with the API endpoints. When you clone this, you will see all of these there. Now, you're not going to see the API key. That will be removed in the one in the GitHub for both Grok and GPT. So the reason I did that is so all you have to do is go grab your API key, plug it in, and save it, and then you're done. And it does give you, it automatically pulls the available models from that particular API endpoint, so you can switch models real quick on that, or set up multiple API endpoints here, pointing each one, like you can set up multiple OpenAI GPT endpoints pointing to different versions of GPT if there's certain versions that do certain things. Same thing with Grok. Just plug the API key in, and it should give you a list of the different models, including some of the latest ones, like I think it's the, where is it? Llama 3.2 90B. I've been kind of playing around with that one. So, and set up as many of those as you want. And the old Llama ones interface just a little bit differently. So when you're setting up a new API endpoint, you have to set up the API type. OLAMA interfaces a little bit differently than the OpenAI style. Most of the online platforms, OpenAI, Grok, Claude, they all use an OpenAI style API. And so when you're doing things like, let's say you're setting up Grok, the only thing you have to do is just make sure the URL matches here. And as long as it has the OpenAI at the end, everything else stays the same. For OLAMA, it's a little different. For those of you who have your own local OLAMA server, if you're running it on the same system that you'll be running this on, just plug in localhost right here instead of the IP address. For me, I have it running on a separate system, and I set up the environment variable that basically allows OLAMA to be accessible over the network. So if you're using Windows, you would go into your environment variables. In fact, let me show you real quick. I think I have it set up on this one. Okay, so as it turns out, I don't have the environment variable set up on this particular system. So if you go to this link, go to the OLAMA documentation, and I'll provide this link below. You can go in and actually look at the frequently asked questions on it, and one of them is how to set up the OLAMA server. Basically, how do you set it up so it acts as a server for requests over a network via API. And they give you examples or show you how to do it with Mac, Linux, and Windows. For those of you who use Windows, you're going into your environment variables, going to your and setting up a new environment variable. Let's see, where is it? I think it's right here. You're setting up a new environment variable. You're naming it this right here. And then the environment variable value you're going to set to the IP address of the system that it's hosted on. And I believe you could just set it to 127.0.0.1 or just the IP address of that exact system if it's a static IP address. That makes it available over the network. So, and to test that, all you would do is, in fact, I'll show you here real quick. Let's come over here, we'll grab this, I believe, and come up here and paste that into here. And it should come back saying OLLAMA is running. This lets you know that it is accessible over the network and that the API interface is ready to accept that requests. It does not require an API key. You don't need to put in the model name here. Honestly, you could just say OLLAMA for that. But I specify the model so I know that this particular endpoint is utilizing that model, and I can set up other endpoints with different models. And like I said, it gives you the model list, select your model, and then down here, you may need to do a little research on what the context, or excuse me, the max token limit of that model is, and put that in here so that it knows what to work with when it's making requests to that API endpoint. Okay, let's move on to managing databases. I've got two in here. One is for my real world business, and the other one is for sci-fi novels, is where I have the example document in. To create a new database, just name it. Let's say test, add the database. It says created successfully, and there you have your new database. Simple as that. And then you can actually delete the databases here as well. Under manage documents, you select the database, or if you don't see your database there, just click refresh and it should bring it up, and then you can add documents from here. I'm going to make it so you can drag and drop documents into this a little later. Shouldn't be too hard to implement that. Right now you can upload PDFs, CSV files, and TXT files, text files. And you can do queries here as well, just to verify that it's working. So like we come over here, put in a query saying, we'll just say epilogue, oops, search. It gives you what it finds based on the epilogue. Okay, and then the nodes I showed you before, click on this and it should give you a description down here. I have it set to parse the Python file out and look for a commented section called description, which we'll put down here so you can detail or see what the details are about that node. So that's something that's still kind of in development. I got to go through and document that section in each one of my nodes so there's good documentation on what that node does. But here's where you would, you could import, like so you pick up another node from somebody. You can go add node, go find it. It'll move it into the right folder, click refresh, and it will add it to the list of nodes. And then once it's there, it should show up in the list of nodes here. I think eventually one of the things I'm going to change on this is to structure this by category, and that'll just be by directory structure, which you'll manage through the node management window. All right. So let's take a minute to just create a workflow. Let's see if we can come up with a workflow here. We're going to add a new one. And let's just start off with a basic node. Let's go ahead and edit it. We're going to designate this as the start node. And what we're going to do, I think, is let's try and create a research node. Meaning it's going to take the request, we're going to have it format that request into more of a web query, and pass that on to the search and scrape node. and then pass that on to another node that will process that information into a blog article. Okay, and then we'll create another node that will review and rate that one, and we'll have it cycle and to improve the node. Because I found that when you give the LLM, the AI, a chance to reflect on it, to review it and provide some suggestions, then you pass that back to the AI, instructing it to implement those suggestions, it does improve. I've created some pretty cool stuff that way. So this first node, what we're going to do is take the following user request and create a this is where you got to think about how you're going to prompt this, and create a web search term for the request. And I like to put in the user request is as follows, giving the AI, letting AI know, hey, everything after this is the user request. We're going to just use, actually, you know what? Let's go ahead and use Ollama. I want to make sure that works there. So we're going to use my local Ollama server. And we're going to create a search and scrape. Kind of overlays it there. So we're going to push this over here, drag that there. Let's go in and edit this. And we're going to, it's not a start or an end. So what we're going to do, I don't think we need to add a prompt to this, because all it's going to do is reach, oh, I almost totally forgot about this. So for the web search and scrape, you need to have a access to a search API, search engine API. Some people use Google. There's a bunch of them out there. And just for you guys, I created a virtual machine that has the, I don't even know how to pronounce it, the SearXNG, SearXNG local search engine. In fact, let me show that to you real quick. So this is running on a virtual system on my local computer here in VirtualBox. And what it is a Ubuntu server that I have gone through the meticulous effort of getting this this search engine up and running on my local system. And this is a full-blown search engine. It pulls from a wide range of different search engine databases. So do a search for Italy, and it'll pull up information just like Google pulls up information that you search for. It has access to images, videos, news, everything you would normally have. I've gone through and set this up, okay? So you don't have to. Meaning, I am providing this virtual system free in my Google Share. It's about a 6 gigabyte download. The virtual system is set up to run on only 2 gigs of RAM, 2 cores of your processor, and that's it. It automatically registers the host name on your network, and all you do is just put in this here, 0serve 88:8888 search. In fact, we're going to copy that and put that in the properties over here. And so you now have your own local search engine. I'll leave the link to, I think the link to my Google Share automatically goes in my description, so you'll see that. There will be instructions on how to set that up in a text file in the folder on my Google Share. You basically download it, put it in a folder somewhere, install VirtualBox, double-click the VBox file. It'll automatically register with VirtualBox. You may have to update the network adapter, but that's it. And then you just double-click run, and it's ready to go. Okay. Then down here, you tell it the number of search results you want it to return. This basic node here is going to send the query to here. This is going to return the search results, or it's going to grab 5 search engine links. So it's going to do a search, find 5 links, and then it's going to scrape each one of those. Okay. So we're going to save that. Now we're going to send that output to a, let's do, I'm trying to decide if I want to do another basic node to summarize the content or send it right to a chat. Let's send it to a chat. And this takes a second to come in because, again, it's engaging with the database right off the bat. I'm going to send it to the chat because it'll show us the raw content. We can kind of breeze through it, and then we can tell it what we want it to do with it. It's interesting. Oh, there it is. Oh, it did it twice. I didn't see the other one. It puts it over here with this one, and it's the same size. So we're going to send that over to a chat. Now, I've never done this before, but it should work fine. And we're not going to prompt it for anything. Let's how do we want to do this? Yeah, I think we're just going to end it right there. I guess we could send it out to another one to execute the full response, but the way this works is it outputs the entire chat history. So we're going to leave it there. We're going to go in here and set it to be the end node. We're going to set it to interact with ChatGPT, and I don't care about the database. We're just going to leave it on that, and that's it. So now we have this workflow. So it's going to do the search, do the scrape, pass it to the chat node, show us the raw content, and from there we can actually ask it to do stuff. So we're going to call this web search scrape and then chat. All right, let's do this. Godzilla history. So give it a second to, it does the web search, pulls the links, scrapes them, and then it should eventually bring up the chat window here with the raw content already in it. I could bring up the node editor and we could see the progress of it because it highlights each node as it processes through that. Maybe we'll do that so I can show you here in just a second what that is or what it looks like. Oh, and there it goes. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, it gave us a lot of data. And this is one of the reasons I decided to tell it to interact with GPT-4o Mini because it has a larger context window. And there's a lot of formatting going on here too. So, oh, there it goes. Just kicked in. Okay, perfect. Okay, so we got a lot of data here. I don't know how much. I need to integrate a scroll bar on this, I think. So what we're going to do, it says, it looks like you've shared a lengthy narrative or story related to Godzilla, its themes, and its cultural impact. Would you like a summary of this content, or is there something specific you'd like to discuss or inquire about? Okay, so I want it to, let's have it write a detailed blog, right? A detailed and emotionally driven blog article about this content. And so the way this works, I am not interacting with ChatGPT the normal way where it kind of streams and maintains like the history in the normal way, and I may switch it over to that. But the reason I'm doing it this way, so the way I'm doing it is I'm submitting the entire chat history. So I'm appending the content that's currently here, everything that's in here, to a chat history variable. So you have the entire content of the chat history, and it submits that back to the AI. And there's our detailed blog article. So what's fun about this is we can now take this. Let's copy this out. It's a pretty good length article. We're going to copy this. I don't have a right click on this yet. And then we're going to close this. It outputs it to this right here. So we have all that output here, but we're not worried about that. We've got the main article. We're going to go to improve. I'm going to show this to you here. And I've got the search node. So this is what's called a search node. This node, what it does, it looks for, and I think I talked about this before earlier in the video, a particular term in the output. So this is going to rate the content on a scale of 1 to 10, provide a few suggestions for improvement. It looks for the word review pass. So what I've done is I've instructed if it reaches a certain minimum rating to include the word review pass at the very end of its output. And so the search term looks for that. And if it finds that, then it outputs to true, which basically sends it to the output. If not, then it sends the content with suggestions back to this node, which is the processing node where it processes the suggestions to improve. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go here and paste in that blog article. And let's see if this runs the way I think it's going to run. So we're going to leave that there and submit that. So you can see it highlights red here on the search node. It's going through and rating it. And what it does is it repeats the original content. So it takes a minute and then provides the rating and the suggestions for improvement. I'm going to change this node. I had an idea earlier today where in the Python code, what I can do is just have it provide the rating and the review, and then take the original input and append the rating and review to the end of it. So it's not having to rewrite the entire thing and then just send it back up to this one up here. So this is the problem I have. If I hover over them, it actually causes the highlighting to stop for some reason. Anyway, so that way it will reduce that. So I'm going to change that later on. But what I can do is, let's see. I'm going to bring up the console here on this other screen. Okay, so I can't really show you this console window because it does, as part of the logging process, log the API key. And so I'm going to avoid showing that. But right now it's currently rewriting it. And it'll go through and it'll show a rating. And right now I believe this is, yeah, so it's doing the rating right now. I've got it set to rate only give it a review pass if it gets a minimum rating of 9.0. So this could take a little while. I'm going to pause and we'll see if it reaches that. Beautiful. That didn't really take as long as I thought. It's on the finished content where it's basically rewriting the content, finalizing the output, and it gave it a rating. The final written one gave it a rating of 9.5, which is pretty good. And what we'll see over here is it'll output the content to this right here. And it's probably a pretty good article. I'm a big Godzilla fan. I love the whole mythos of the different monsters, where they come from, kind of what each one represents. So there's the final rating and some final suggestions for improvement. So you could actually increase the rating, and if you really wanted to try and push the quality of the article, but I found going above 9.2 tends to, depending on what it is you're trying to write, tends to be iffy at best. So that's that. That's how you would work that. And again, you can create, I'm hoping to build a community around this. I'm hoping to maybe start a node challenge, challenging people to create some highly customized or creative nodes that do lots of different things. This is going to have the ability to interact with, like if you have hardware that you want to interact with, You can set up a Python code that is designed, or a node, because it uses Python to interact with, say, a port or whatever that interacts with hardware that maybe takes a command and then returns a response, and then you have a node that it sends that response through here, and the AI determines what it needs to do with that, if it needs to have the hardware do something else. I mean, there's a whole range of things you're going to be able to do with this. So the node structure is pretty standardized. Let me show you the basic node here. So basically what it is, depending on what it is you're doing, you're going to want to import or specify any other modules you need to import. If there's some customized stuff you need to do. But these are the three basic ones for this base node that has a prompt box for inputting a prompt, selecting the API that you're going to work with, and registering itself with the node registry. Down here you have the section where you're going to designate how many inputs and how many outputs the node has. I've not worked with nodes with more than one input, but I've had some ideas on what that could mean, where you set the node so that it waits until it receives input from multiple sources before it continues processing. Could get very interesting with how that works. So, and then setting up the properties of the window, like what properties each one's going to have. You can set up your own custom properties, and then setting up the functions for what it's going to do, and then the main process here, which takes the input and does whatever it's going to do with that input, and then returns the output. So after it gets all done, in this case, you're returning a response, and that response gets sent to the output as the output to the next node. So the system is designed so that it's not reliant on naming these anything other than input and output, so that you can name whatever your return here, whatever you want. So when you're creating outputs, they are set up as, you just do a comma, output 2, comma, output 3, comma, or, in quotes. Same thing with the inputs. It would just be designated, input, and then input 1 or 2, input 3. And then you would just save that. So like for this one here, let's say we do this. I want to see if this works. I've not actually created something with multiple inputs. Let's say we save that. Let's close out our program here, reload it. Let's see here. Okay, it gets it loading up, registers the nodes, loads it up here. Let's go and go add. We're going to go add. This was on the basic node. So yeah, it looks like we got 3 inputs, 3 outputs. And so this is going to give you a ton of flexibility if you want to figure out like logic that handles multiple inputs. I believe the node processing code does take into account that it has to wait for, like on the output. I had to fix some logic because it was like on the test one where it was doing a search and testing true or false. It was processing both nodes, the one that was attached to the true and one that was attached to the false. I believe I fixed that logic, but we're going to try doing some testing with this later on and to figure that out. Make sure it actually works. Okay, so most of what you're going to do is going to be in the process block here. And the send to API should stay pretty standard. You can customize some of the stuff, like if there's a custom prompt you just want to put in, you can put that in there and add it to the prompt input, but however you want to do that. Really, the biggest concern here is just making sure that you're taking your inputs, processing those inputs however you want, with whatever functions you want, and then returning your outputs here. And that'll send, like if you're wanting to send to multiple outputs, you got to make sure you put in response 1, response 2, response 3, or however that works. And I'm going to do some testing to make sure that works on this side. So let's see what people can do. This is the logic for processing, whether it's a OpenAI style response or an OLAMA style response, and processing accordingly. Probably not mess with too much of that in the send to API section if you're wanting to interact properly with the main interface when it comes to the API endpoints. The database interaction is a little more complex. You can look at the DB or the the chat node if you want to see how we're interacting with the database there. But yeah, would love to see it. Maybe we'll set up a competition on having people create some nodes, and we'll do some testing and maybe provide a prize for that. So I hope people find interest in this. We're seeing a lot of agentic stuff coming out. Not much of it was easy to look at, install, or set up, and some of it's just very confusing. And I really wanted an interface that was a lot easier to understand. You could see the workflow easily and interacts with a database, so you can start, working with documents, that kind of thing. I've already started using this in my main business. Being able to use documents to create emails based on reports and things like that. So it's going to come in very, very handy. So I hope you like this. I know this video is a little long. You try to make it as short as possible, but honestly, this is a big thing and needed a lot of time to go through to really show it off. So we'll probably do some more videos in the future around maybe creating a custom node. We'll come up with an idea and we'll go through and create that. Maybe even creating custom workflows for user requests. Like maybe a user has a request like, how would you do this? And we'll go through and create a workflow for it. So appreciate all those who stood by and watched this whole thing. You're still here.